Hey guys, Rachele here with Amethyst Ascension, and I really just want to get this done. You know, when I put this in the tutorial, I honestly was not thinking, or not the tutorial, but this project actually in the Thursdays craft corner, because, and it's okay to do this, but I should have picked much larger beads because there was so much time it took to get to this point, so much sewing. So I should have used larger beads and maybe made one that was like half of the size. Because let me show you. And I also want to show you what I've done with the end really quick. I decided to change the button that I put on it. And this is actually a strand of them that I found at Michael's, and I think they were having one of their 50% off or 60% off, or it might have actually even been 70% off. So I thought, these are so pretty, and I love roses, and they stand for love, so many different kinds of love, including self-love. So I thought, you know what, that's gorgeous, and I'm gonna do that. And it did not clash, because there's not a whole bunch of design in that, and there's a lot of different colors going on in this. So I thought this would be something that's really, really cool, and make it look really, really feminine along with your purples and stuff. So I want to show you briefly how I attached it. This came with these beads, and I like that they were clear, and then it with the silver inside lining, so I thought it would go really well with that. And I wanted to put, there you go, you can see it. I wanted to put a bead on either side of the actual button itself, because let me show you the backs. You see that? There's a couple of different sets of holes for each of them. So I'm only using one set in order to bring it out a little bit, so that when I close my end in down here, which let me show you, I'm sorry, I'm kind of holding my phone too, but when this comes around like so, I will be making a loop at this end with these same seed beads that loops around this, that comes out of that end, so that when it comes together, then you have your completed bracelet. I'm probably going to include this in a giveaway later on down the road, but with some other stuff too when I do my 500 subscriber giveaway. But so yeah, I just wanted to show you briefly how I attached it. Like I said, I used a bead on each side. Let me try to do it from the other side. And then after doing that, I made sure I was coming out one of the beads. And remember, like I said before, and I showed in the previous, just go in and out and just go back up and down and around inside of these beads here. Because you see, they like stagger each other. So it's easy to go from the next one to the next one to the next one and over and back up around and all that. And then I made sure that I went through these two or three times. And keep in mind, I'm always using fire lines, so that's also much sturdier than regular thread, regular sewing thread, sorry. So I put it through a couple of times, and now what I'm going to do at this end, now that it's really good and sturdy, and you can't pull it apart, yeah, it's real good and sturdy. So what I'm going to do, and I do it on the back side just because this kind of gets in the way a little bit as you're trying to maneuver back down. What I'm going to do is keep on running my thread, because I'm ending this end of the bracelet. I'm going to keep on running the thread back and down and up and around and blah, 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 over until I feel like it's a really good and secure end. You don't have to tie it off anywhere because it's going in so many different angles and going down and around and up and around that it's good and sturdy at that point. Okay? And then once I get to the other end and I start putting that end on, which it's very simple, very, very simple. But once I start doing that, then I will record that bit. Hey guys. All right, let me try to. So the next thing that I wanted to show you, I am starting a new thread down at the opposite end. And so, oops, let me make sure I'm getting this right. So what I've done is, and I don't think you can see this, but, oh, wrong side. What I've done is just go into one of the beads and then go into the next one over, or the next one up, the next one over, and then come back down so that I'm coming down in the exact same bead that I started in. So I essentially have two strands coming out, one that's shorter and one that is the actual strand that I'm going to be using. So, and as I've said before, you don't technically need to do this, but I like to do this, which is just tie it off. Oops. Let me do it the other way because I tie a certain way. So like crossover, you know what I mean? There we go. And I get as tight as I can. And I'm going to do one more. Work with me here. Come on, thread. Fire line is much stiffer. So it doesn't just lay down. It creates like loops sometimes. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm just going to take my other end. Let's see. All right. I'm going to go right in the next one over. Can you see this? And pull that loose end a little bit where it sits actually inside of the bead. This I probably could have made a little bit longer, but I only need to run it just a couple, and you know, in a couple other ones. Actually, if I wanted to, I could cut it off right there, but I'm not going to. Just to give myself a little bit of leeway. And I did double knot it, so. So what I'm going to do now is just continue to work my way to one of the edges. It doesn't really matter. Let me put my glasses on because it's not so easy to see these little buggers. You just want to follow, when you're doing this, think about the direction in which things are going so that you do not see the thread. If you do it the right way, the thread will like be in between where all of it runs. Ay, caramba. What did I just do there? See, I get to talking. And I do exactly what I tell you not to do. Typical. There, what did I do? No, I don't even know what I did. So, I am just going to take the needle off the end. And I leave these in accidentally made a loop. I'm just going to pull it right back on out. No harm, no foul. Yes, it does require a little bit of patience and not getting upset with yourself. And I always say that mistakes, I mean, even though I've done this for years, it's been a long time since I actually picked it up and was doing it like this again. So I'm bound to make mistakes, but mistakes are good because we learn from them. They're growing experiences. So, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep this in the camera. So I'm just going to keep on working my way all the way down to the end. Because I want my loop starting at the very end. If you know what I mean. The loop that I use for going around the button that is going to be our clasp. I do one at a time, and the reason I do one at a time, especially when you're dealing with smaller beads, is because if you force it, if something doesn't want to easily go through, and you force it, not only can you just make it very, very difficult in order to get through the bead, but if you force it too much, you can actually bust the bead. And if you bust these glass beads, then you're going to see all of the thread for that one bead. Granted, you're dealing with really small beads, so it might not be that bad. I mean, you're probably not going to notice when it's that, intricate, that little. Somebody probably would not notice. But if you're anything like me, you would notice, and it would drive you crazy. So I just say, take it slow, especially in the beginning. The more and more you do it, you'll learn what you can do and what you can't, and how far you can push things and how far you can't. So take it slow, do one at a time. What I mean by that, I'm just going one bead at a time, coming out the next side, and then deciding which direction I want to take the next one in. Okay, so now, as you can see, I am coming out the other end, or one of the ends. So this is now where we are at the point where we are going to figure out how big of a loop that we are going to need in order to go around. You see, I want to put it like about right there, and then have the loop come around. So I have my button, oh, maybe it's easier to see here. So now I have my button sitting in between and covering up where the flesh would be. Not everybody has an issue with that, but I just like it better when it's not like a huge area that's exposed. It's almost like the bracelet isn't the right size for that person. So, and I like things to be even. That's just my own issues. But, so, now, let me grab I'm not sure whether or not I want to do these beads But I think what I'm going to do is all of these beads that actually came with all of these buttons in the package. And like I said, I got them from Michael's for 5 of the buttons. And then they were strung on with these clear glass beads with silver inside lining, metallic inside lining. And I'm almost positive I got them for like 70% off. So I think they ended up being like, oh my gosh, maybe $2, maybe $2. Sorry about that. For the entire thing. So and I only needed one, but I mean, just think of future projects that you could also use, because I think it's really cute. Definitely very feminine, I will say that. This is what I was originally going to use, if you remember right. But after getting it and looking at them together, I just thought that it would kind of clash, because there's like different types of patterns going on with that. And then this kind of pattern that's kind of like all over the place, like spotty. I thought that they just clashed with each other. So I wanted something, I wanted something nice like this, but I had wished that I could find it in a, you know, like one of the colors here, but I couldn't. So I said, you know what? I like those good enough. I will try it. And I really do like how it looks. I think it looks really good. So I think I'm actually going to use all of these silver, well, inside silver beads for a couple of different reasons. For one, because they match that really well. For two, because they're bigger, which means the most stress that you're going to get on something is between your clasp. So, because this is so tightly woven, okay, this bracelet is. So, I want to be able to go through these beads that are going to be keeping it all together, keeping your, you know, bracelet on and your clasp together. So, I want to be able to go through it probably like 4 times, 5 times. And so, that's why I decided I want to go with these. But we will see how it looks. The beautiful thing also about beading, sewing beading, is that you do not have to worry so much when you are stringing stuff until you actually put it through. Because if you don't like it, you can just simply, like so, I'll show you, run your needle right back through the other way and take them all off. Okay? So, go ahead and put it on and test it and see what you think. Alright. I'm going to run it through a couple more. Can you hear Sully? He's laying on the bed. And he's funny. If he's not like happy with something, sometimes he'll go, just like a human. I'm probably disturbing his sleep with all my talking. Poor little baby. All right. So let's try this again before we go through and tighten it all. You know what? I'm happy with that. So then all I'm going to do then, oh, wait a minute. All right, let me make that tighter because there was too much give. can't really test it if there's too much gap. Okay. Let me take this off. All right, let me test this again. Yes, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to stick with that. So let me get this off, and then I'm just going to show you how I just continue to go through. I make sure it's tight. It doesn't have to be excruciatingly tight where you're going to crack a bead, but you also don't want to see tons of thread. So give it a little bit of slack, because keep in mind the majority of it is going to be hidden underneath of your clasp anyways, your button. And there's lots of ways to end a bracelet, you know, different kinds of clasps. But this is just the one that I chose for this. I'm trying to keep this one as simple as possible and kind of bring, you know, also for people that have never done this kind of stuff, I will say that I have been to many craft shows in my day and selling at craft shows, and 9 times out of 10, the people that really purchase your items are other people that are creators, because they can really appreciate the time and effort that is put into doing a piece like this. Because, I mean, it can take hours upon hours, okay? And especially if you're dealing with small, intricate things. And this one was an easy design. This was just throwing stuff together. But imagine actually doing a design that has maybe some sigil or symbol. I mean, really, there's so much that can be done when you're bead weaving and you're working with small little patterns. But at the same time, you have to price your items if you're selling them accordingly, because it's not worth your time invested. And that's not even taken into consideration how much it costs in order to buy your materials. And when you think of materials, somebody would think, oh, well, you know, I mean, those beads aren't that expensive, but it's not just the beads. It's all of the items and the tools that you need in order to also do it. But I mean, unless you're buying something that's really expensive, which you can, there's a lot of stuff out there, you know, depending on your materials. I have necklaces that it's cost me probably $100 just in materials to make them, because they are so expensive, and it's because it's gemstones. But the real cost is in how long it takes somebody. And bead weaving, I have seen over the years many artists that sell their stuff for like super cheap just to get rid of it, and or to get themselves known or whatever. And really, that is just like the beginning of the end of your business if you do not price your stuff accordingly. And that's why other artists usually understand this, and they're the ones that are normally buying your items, because they know how much time and effort you put into your pieces. But this is also why, if you're somebody that loves this type of art, or just loves art in general, granted this is a little bit different, but if you are and you want to learn how to do it, you could save so much money by doing it yourself. But just be prepared, because it is really a lot of intricate work. So now all I'm doing here, as I'm going through, after I've done this, all I'm doing is just going, like I said, bead at a time, making sure where my thread is coming out and going into another thread where another bead where it's not going to show the thread. So you're just like weaving inside and out and weaving around. So once you've done that, all you need to do at that point is just maybe go around in a couple of squares, do some zigzags, come back and forth, and then once you're done, just pull it as taut as you can. Let me grab my thing. I'm not going to cut it off yet because I want to go in quite a few more times and work my way down here, so it's less likely to pull. And then you take it up to it and snip it right off. You didn't know that there would be special effects with all the noises, right? But so that's all you do. And then this one, I will also, this little end, which I should have made a little bit longer, but I can deal with it. And just put it in through a couple of the different beads and then snip that end off. And you do want it to be a little bit on the tight side, just because you don't want it super loose, because then it would be easily able to come off. Okay? So there you have it, guys. I will take a picture of the completed item, and I am going to actually, and you can see how thick this is in comparison to the wrist, which this is not for me. I didn't make it as big as I would need, but also because I want to be able to give this away to somebody for one of my giveaways. Okay? So I hope you have enjoyed this series on bead weaving. And next week, because I'm going to go ahead and put this one out because I've missed a few now, I believe, 2 or 3 of them at least. And then on this next Thursday, we're going to start on the next project, which was the divination board, the pendulum board. So the items that you're going to need, I've already discussed before. You're going to need the slab of wood. Now you can pick any size that you want for this. The one that I got was, I think, like, I got it with a coupon at Michael's for, gosh, $10 maybe. And then after that, you're going to want some burning tools, like a burning gun. And then if you are somebody that would prefer to burn in your own words and all that, your, yes and no and maybe and all that for your divination board, then by all means, if you're artistic in that way and you can draw really well, you don't need anything else. I'm not good at that. So I'm using the tools. I got myself a stencil, and then I just used a black Sharpie marker, because when you actually burn into the wood, it turns out black anyway. So, and that was a good guide for me because I can't draw. So I always suggest when you're doing this kind of stuff, and this is my first time, so this is going to be an experience for both of us, and hopefully it turns out good, right? So you're going to need, like I said, the slab of wood, and then you're going to need a burning tool, and then a stencil, or if you have like a, depending on the size of wood that you're using, if you have like a rubber stamp or anything like that with a design that you love, go ahead and put it where you want it on your board, and then after it dries and all that, then we're going to go through and burn. Now also keep in mind, when burning, you're going to want to have some good ventilation, especially if you're using it with inks or markers, because I'm not sure whether or not that's going to create any nasty chemical fumes. Okay, so either do it outside, which it's good that we have good weather now, so either do it outside, or do it by an open window or something with a fan maybe, just to make sure that you're protecting yourself the best that you can. And the same with whenever you use like E6000. Some of these materials, even though you can readily buy them, does not mean that they're always 100% safe without caution. So I want to stress that part of it. So if you are not artistic when it comes to drawing and painting and stuff like that, or drawing, I suppose I should say, then I would suggest using a rubber stamp or getting letters, or printing off something off of your computer and then, cutting it out and then using that as your stencil. But either way, the for sure things you're going to need is your burning tool, which I've said it before. I mean, if you already have one, wonderful. If you don't, you can get them at Michael's. You can get them at Hobby Lobby, I believe. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at Joann's, maybe. I'm not sure about Joann's. And maybe any place that maybe even Walmart for that matter. I'm not sure. I haven't researched that bit. But at Michael's, if you're not a member, sign up for the rewards, because every week they send either a 40 or a 50%, and they also give you updates as to when things go on sale, and they run really good sales. Or you can use your coupon for one big item. So keep that in mind. And then if you do need the other tools, then they're going to be over right in that same area as far as burning tools. I got the actual burning letters to work with mine. So I'm going to end this because this has been super long. I am sorry about that. I hope you are enjoying this series. If so, give me a like, hit that subscribe if you have not already. And don't forget about the little notification bell so that you can be notified of new videos, if I can speak right. And I'm wishing you guys always love and light. Thank you so much.